All right, let's dive into something that's turning quiet, peaceful neighborhoods into genuine battlegrounds: the fight over short-term rentals. You know, that one sentence, it pretty much sums up this entire fight, doesn't it? We're seeing this conflict pop up everywhere, but it's especially heated in tourist hotspots like the Jersey Shore. It really boils down to this classic dilemma: your right to make money off your property versus your neighbor's right to, well, have some peace and quiet. So let's get right down to it. What does it actually feel like when the house right next door to you basically turns into a motel overnight? Well, for the people who live there all year round, the first sign that something's changed is messy. We're talking about basic quality of life stuff, like heaps of garbage from a weekend's worth of guests just sitting on the curb for days. And after the trash, then comes the parking nightmare. Suddenly, you can't find a spot on your own street. Cars are crammed into every driveway, spilling out onto the street, even ending up on people's lawns. Your quiet little block starts to look like a chaotic parking lot. That's how many times the police were called in just one town, Ventnor, New Jersey. And the police chief was crystal clear. He directly linked this massive surge in noise complaints and disturbances to all the short-term renters. I mean, just think about the strain that puts on a small town's services. So because of all this, officials started to completely reframe the issue. They started saying, hey, hold on a second, this isn't just someone sharing their home. They're calling it what they see it as: a full-blown commercial business operating smack dab in the middle of a neighborhood that's supposed to be residential.
Okay, so if we're talking about these rentals as commercial operations, what's driving all this business? Let's take a look at the money, at the economic forces behind this whole gold rush.
It's pretty simple, really. For property owners, the lure of making some serious rental income was just too tempting. And you can see the results right here. The numbers just exploded. We're talking almost 500 listings in Ventnor, nearly 1,000 in Brigantine, and almost 2,000 in Atlantic City. It's a huge amount. And this is where you really see the two sides of the coin. On one hand, the towns are thinking, hey, home values are going up, that means more tax money for us. But on the other side, well, the actual community, the people who live there, they're the ones paying a price that's a lot harder to put a number on. And that price, it's steep, and the consequences just ripple outwards. You start losing the year-round residents, the very people who keep local shops and restaurants alive during the quiet off-season. And the schools, they take a massive hit. Their school enrollment has dropped below 400 kids. Why? Because regular families are getting priced out. So with all this happening, you've got to ask, what are these communities doing about it? How are they trying to fight back? The answer is regulation. They're trying to draw a line in the sand. Here's what a town like Ventnor did. They came up with these tiered rules: a minimum number of nights you have to stay, and it changes depending on how big the house is. It's a really targeted strategy, right? They're trying to weed out the one-night party houses, which, let's be honest, cause the biggest headaches. So these rules are on the books. They sound pretty good on paper. But here's the million-dollar question: is anyone actually enforcing them? And it turns out, well, not really. People looked into it, and you can just hop on a site like VRBO and see for yourself. You can still find places to book for just one night, totally against the town's rules. It kind of undermines the whole effort. And you can imagine how that leaves the year-round residents feeling completely powerless, and in some cases, even intimidated. I mean, this quote from a woman in Brigantine is pretty shocking. She says she's been threatened with lawsuits by rental operators just for speaking up. No wonder people are afraid to report what's happening right on their own block. Now, let's pull back for the big picture here, because there's a bit of a plot twist. While the local laws seem to be struggling, the market itself might be starting to do what the regulators couldn't. If you look at the national level, there are some pretty clear signs that the market is cooling off. Airbnb's stock price, which is a great barometer for the whole industry, took a big 14% hit at one point. When investors get that nervous, it's a huge red flag. And that cooling trend is definitely being felt in these local towns. A real estate executive in Brigantine said that summer rental bookings were down by a staggering 60%. 60%! That isn't a slowdown, that's the market hitting the brakes hard. So what happened? Well, the word everyone is using now is oversaturated. There are just too many rentals. And now you're hearing people on the inside, even the president of the Chamber of Commerce, telling property owners, hey, you might want to think about selling, or maybe, just maybe, switch over to long-term rentals, which of course the community desperately needs. And all of this leaves us with one big final question. As this gold rush seems to be winding down, can these towns actually reclaim their character? Will they feel like neighborhoods again? Or has the landscape been permanently changed and the motel next door is just here to stay?
But I think the rental type market, and it's been slowly declining, like the summer rentals. I see a lot of homes with signs on them for summer rental. They're not there like they used to be because of Airbnb and VRBOs. The short-term rentals have really kicked that market to the curb, sort of, where you would take it all summer. It changes the dynamics of the area because it's very transient, where before you would have many homes go from Memorial Day to Labor Day with the same people in the neighborhood, in the restaurants, on the boardwalk, on the beach. You know, you would have groups like that. Now you don't have that. Now it's more transient than ever, with people coming in for weekends and weeks and in and out.